My dear friends, life is not always about comfort, applause, or validation. A strong woman does not become strong by living in the shadows of ease, but by embracing the light and heat of challenges. Today, let us reflect on the hard truths every strong woman must hear. Truths that may sting at first, but ultimately empower the heart and elevate the soul. Strength does not mean the absence of tears. It means knowing when to cry and still rise again. Strength does not mean you never feel tired. It means you rest without giving up. And strength does not mean the world will always understand you. It means you walk your path even when they don't. The world will sometimes misjudge you. They may call your confidence arrogance, your silence weakness, your love dependency, and your independence rebellion. But a strong woman learns not to define herself through the eyes of others. She learns to define herself by her values, her purpose, her faith. True strength is not loud. It is steady. It is not boastful. It is graceful. It is not about defeating others. It is about defeating your own fears, doubts, and insecurities. So, let us embrace these truths not as burdens, but as guiding lamps, reminding us that strength is not built in comfort, but in courage, not in applause, but in resilience, and not in approval, but in authenticity. When we think of strength, many imagine something so solid that nothing can ever break it. A rock, perhaps, that stands firm against the storms, unmoved and untouched. But real strength is not about being unbreakable. In fact, to be human is to break, to fall, to stumble, and to sometimes feel overwhelmed. The real test of strength lies not in whether we break, but in whether we rise again after breaking. It lies not in how many times life knocks us down, but in how many times we choose to stand up, even if our knees are trembling and our heart is tired. A strong woman is not one who never faces pain. She is one who feels the pain, learns from it, and keeps walking forward. Think about the goldsmith. Before gold shines in its most beautiful form, it must go through fire. The fire does not destroy the gold, it purifies it. In the same way, life's challenges do not come to break us permanently. They come to refine us, to shape us, and to bring out the hidden strength we did not even know we had. Every fall, every failure, every heartbreak, every setback is like that fire, painful, yes, but ultimately purposeful. Sometimes, the world looks at a woman who has fallen and says, she is finished. They judge by appearances, by temporary chapters, not realizing that her story is still being written. But strength whispers within her, this is not the end. You are allowed to fall, but you are not allowed to give up. She gathers the broken pieces of her courage and builds again, even stronger than before. And every time she rises, she proves to herself and to the world that strength is not about avoiding falls, but about rising after them. A child learning to walk does not master it in one attempt. They fall again and again. But notice something powerful. Every time they fall, they instinctively rise. No one teaches them the philosophy of resilience. It is built into their spirit. They do not give up until they learn to walk steadily. Somewhere along the journey of life, many of us forget this natural resilience. We fall once and start doubting our worth. But a strong woman remembers the lesson of her childhood, that falling is not failing. Failing is refusing to rise. Life has a way of testing us when we least expect it. Loss of loved ones, betrayal from friends, failures in career, health struggles. These moments can make even the strongest feel weak. But it is in those very moments that strength reveals itself, not in the absence of scars, but in the courage to wear those scars with pride. A scar is not a symbol of weakness. It is proof that you fought, you endured, and you overcame. So, strength is not about being unshaken by storms. Even the mightiest trees bend when the winds are fierce. Yet, when the storm passes, they rise again, rooted deeper than before. A strong woman is like that tree. She may bend, she may fall, but she will never remain on the ground. She chooses to rise, not because it is easy, but because it is who she is. Rising is her nature. Rising is her power. Rising is her definition of strength. So often in our world, tears are seen as a sign of weakness. We are told to be strong by holding them back, to hide them from others, to pretend they don't exist. But what if I told you that tears are not weakness at all? In fact, they are the language of the soul. They are the body's most honest form of expression. The evidence that the heart is alive, that it cares, that it feels deeply. To cry is not to surrender. To cry is to acknowledge that something matters to you, that your heart is still tender enough to love, to hurt, and to hope. Imagine a woman who never cries, no matter what happens. Outwardly, she may look strong, but inwardly she could be shutting herself off from life. A strong woman is not one who never sheds a tear, but one who allows herself to cry when her heart is heavy and then stands up again, stronger for having released that pain. Tears wash the soul the way rain nourishes the earth. After the rain, the ground is softer, ready to bring forth new growth. In the same way, after tears, the heart is lighter, ready to heal and move forward. Think of a mother holding her child. When the child is hurt and crying, the mother doesn't say, "Don't cry, that makes you weak." She embraces the child, allows the tears to flow, and through that release, the child begins to heal. If a child's tears are a natural part of healing, then why should a woman believe that her own tears make her any less strong? To suppress emotion is to carry the weight longer. To express it through tears is to free yourself of what burdens you. The strongest rivers are those that flow freely. If they were blocked, they would stagnate, and their beauty would be lost. Our emotions are the same. Tears are the current that keeps our emotional rivers from stagnating. They cleanse us from within. They remind us that we are not machines. We are human beings with hearts that feel. And in feeling lies strength, not weakness. There is also an unspoken beauty in tears. When a woman cries for love, it shows she values relationships. When she cries for injustice, it shows her compassion for the world. When she cries for loss, it shows her ability to form bonds so meaningful that their absence leaves a mark. Every tear is a reflection of depth. It proves she is not indifferent, that she is not numb, that she has the courage to live with an open heart even in a world that sometimes hurts open hearts the most. Society may say, don't cry, but perhaps we should say, cry when you must, and rise when you are ready. Tears are not the end of strength, they are the beginning of it. They soften what has hardened, they release what has been trapped, and they clear the vision so we can see life with fresh eyes. Have you ever noticed how the world seems clearer after a rainfall? The leaves glisten, the air is lighter, the earth smells fresh. That is what happens to the human soul after tears. So never be ashamed of your tears. They are not proof of weakness. They are proof of your humanity, of your courage to feel, of your ability to care. And in a world where indifference is common, to feel deeply is not weakness at all. It is one of the greatest strengths a woman can possess. One of the hardest truths a strong woman must accept is that no matter how genuine, kind, or sincere she is, the world will still misjudge her. People will look at fragments of her life, not the full story. They will see her choices but not her sacrifices, her strength but not the silent battles behind it. And often they will form opinions, sometimes harsh ones, without knowing the heart that beats behind her actions. This is the nature of the world. Every great soul in history has been misunderstood. Every person who walked with authenticity has faced judgment. And yet, the worth of a diamond does not decrease if someone mistakes it for a stone. The diamond does not need everyone's recognition to remain valuable. Its brilliance comes from within, not from the approval of others. In the same way, a woman's worth does not shrink just because someone else fails to see it. Think about it. When a bird sings in the forest, not everyone understands its song. Some stop and listen. Some walk away. Some even find it annoying. But does the bird stop singing? No. Because the song is not meant for approval, it is an expression of its being. Likewise, a strong woman must continue to live her truth, even if the world around her misinterprets her intentions. People may say she is too ambitious, when in reality, she is simply using her talents to their fullest. They may say she is too quiet, when in reality, she chooses peace over noise. They may say she is too strong, when in reality, she has learned to survive storms most people could not endure. No matter what she does, there will always be someone ready to twist her story. And that is why her worth must never be anchored in the shifting tides of other people's opinions. When we allow the voices of others to define us, we hand them the keys to our happiness. Imagine living every day as a prisoner of perception, adjusting your walk, your talk, your dreams, and your values just to fit into their boxes. That is not strength, that is surrender. True strength is walking your path with dignity, even if no one claps, even if some throw stones. We cannot control the tongues of others, but we can control the anchor of our self-worth. And that anchor must be placed deep within, on values, on character, on truth. Because at the end of the day, the world's opinion is temporary, but self-respect is eternal. People change their minds all the time. Today they may criticize, tomorrow they may admire. If we live for their applause, we will die by their silence. There's a story of an old man, his son, and their donkey traveling through a village. At first, the man rode the donkey, and people said, "Look at that cruel man making his child walk." So the man got down and let the boy ride. Then others said, "Look at that spoiled child letting his father walk." So they both rode the donkey, and people said, "Look how cruel they are, burdening the poor animal." Finally, they both walked beside it, and people laughed. "How foolish! Why not use the donkey? The lesson is clear no matter what you do. The world will always have something to say. So why not do what feels right in your heart?" A strong woman must remember these opinions are many, truth is one. Noise is temporary, character is permanent, and her worth, her real worth, has nothing to do with how others measure her. It comes from the courage to live authentically, even in the face of misunderstanding. Confidence is a gift, but not everyone will see it that way. When a woman walks with her head held high, when she speaks her mind without hesitation, when she carries herself with dignity and grace, the world does not always applaud. Sometimes they mistake her confidence for arrogance. They whisper, "She thinks too much of herself," when in reality, she is simply refusing to think too little of herself. The truth is, people often project their own insecurities onto others. When someone is unsure of themselves, they may feel uncomfortable around a woman who knows her worth. Her confidence shines a light on what others may lack within, and instead of admiring it, some choose to mislabel it. But here lies the challenge: should she shrink herself just to be accepted? Should she lower her voice, hide her talents, or dim her light so that others feel comfortable? A strong woman knows the answer is no. Imagine a candle in a dark room. Its purpose is to shine, to bring light. Now imagine if the candle could think and said, "Let me dim myself, because my brightness makes others uncomfortable." What would happen to the room? It would fall back into darkness. Confidence is that candle. It illuminates the way not just for the one who carries it, but for everyone around her. And when a woman dims her light to fit in, she deprives the world of the inspiration she was meant to bring. Confidence does not mean believing you are better than others. It means believing you are not less. It means knowing your strengths without denying your flaws. It means standing tall without stepping on anyone. Yet society sometimes prefers a quiet, hesitant woman, someone who does not question, someone who does not assert herself. When a woman refuses that mold, when she speaks with clarity and acts with determination, she unsettles the expectations. And instead of changing their perspective, people may accuse her of being proud, but their label does not define her truth. Think of great leaders, thinkers, and trailblazers throughout history. They were all confident, and nearly all of them were misunderstood in their time. Confidence is not always welcomed because it challenges the status quo. But without confidence, no barrier would ever be broken, no ceiling would ever be shattered. For a strong woman, confidence is not just a trait, it is a necessity. It is what allows her to pursue her goals despite doubt, to stand tall despite criticism, and to continue walking even when the path is lonely. Of course, there will always be a delicate balance between confidence and arrogance. The difference lies in intention. Arrogance seeks to elevate self by lowering others, while confidence simply honors one's own worth without comparison. A strong woman understands this difference. She does not need to boast, nor does she need to beg for validation. Her quiet assurance speaks louder than words. And so, even when the world misinterprets, she must remain unshaken. Because confidence, once compromised, leads to regret. But confidence, once embraced, leads to freedom. The freedom to live as you truly are, not as others expect you to be. It is better to be misunderstood for your confidence than to be accepted for your silence. So, let the world misjudge if it must. Let them whisper if they choose. But never trade authenticity for approval, and never tone down the fire of confidence just to fit into the comfort of others. In a world that constantly demands noise, opinion and reaction, silence is often misunderstood. People assume that if a woman remains silent, she must be weak, timid, or incapable of speaking for herself. They think silence means surrender, or worse, ignorance. But true silence is not the absence of strength. It is the presence of wisdom. It takes more courage to hold your tongue when provoked than to unleash words that may wound. It takes more power to walk away from chaos than to fight battles that do not deserve your energy. A strong woman knows that silence is not about having nothing to say. It is about choosing when to say it. Words are like arrows. Once released, they cannot be taken back. Silence is the shield that prevents unnecessary arrows from being shot. And when words finally are spoken, they carry the weight of depth, clarity, and impact. Consider the ocean. It does not roar all the time. At times it is calm, still, and quiet. Yet, its power is unquestionable. Silence in a strong woman works in the same way. Just because she does not speak does not mean she does not see. Just because she does not react does not mean she does not understand. Silence gives her space to observe, to reflect, to choose wisely. And when the time comes to act or speak, her words are like the waves of the ocean, measured, purposeful, unstoppable. Silence also protects peace. Not every argument is worth fighting. Not every insult deserves a reply. Not every misunderstanding needs explanation. Sometimes silence is not about giving in, but about conserving energy for greater battles ahead. Why waste strength on trivial matters when that strength could be invested in building dreams, nurturing relationships, or growing within? A strong woman knows when to engage and when to withdraw. That discernment is wisdom. History is filled with examples of silence being more powerful than speech. Think of moments where someone's quiet presence brought more comfort than 1,000 words. Think of times when refusing to respond to provocation disarmed the aggressor. Silence can calm storms that words would only intensify. It is a language of strength that does not need noise to be felt. But let us be clear, silence does not mean suppression. It does not mean allowing injustice to prevail or wrongs to go unchallenged. It means knowing the right time, the right way, and the right purpose to speak. A strong woman chooses silence when speaking would diminish her dignity, and she chooses speech when silence would compromise her values. That balance is what makes her wise. Imagine standing before a mirror filled with dust. If you keep wiping it while it's still settling, you only spread the dirt more. But if you wait, let it settle, then clean it, the reflection becomes clear. Silence works in this way. It allows the dust of anger, pain, or confusion to settle so that when words are finally spoken, they reveal clarity instead of chaos. Silence is strength because it requires control. Anyone can shout in anger, but it takes discipline to remain still. Anyone can argue endlessly, but it takes wisdom to end the cycle with silence. In silence, a strong woman shows that her power does not depend on being louder than others, but on being deeper within herself. So when the world misreads her silence as weakness, she does not rush to defend herself. She knows her silence speaks a language that noise cannot. And those who truly understand her will know that in her quietness lives not fear, but wisdom, wisdom that guides her, protects her, and strengthens her more than words ever could. Many people confuse love with weakness. They think that when a woman loves deeply, she becomes dependent, that she loses her power, her individuality, her strength. But true love is not dependency at all. It is not about clinging to someone out of fear of being alone. It is not about surrendering your identity for the sake of another. Real love is strength in its purest form because it takes courage to open your heart. It takes maturity to give without expectation, and it takes wisdom to care deeply without losing yourself in the process. Dependency says, I need you because without you I am incomplete. But love says, I choose you because I am complete. And I want to share my completeness with you. Dependency comes from fear. Love comes from freedom. Dependency weakens. Love empowers. A strong woman does not love because she cannot survive alone. She loves because she wants to make life more beautiful for herself and others. She is not bound by love. She is elevated by it. Think of a tree. Its roots are firm, its trunk is strong, and it can stand tall on its own. Yet it still offers shade to the weary traveler, fruit to the hungry, and shelter to the birds. Does its giving weaken it? No. The tree remains whole, but through its strength, it gives life to others. That is how a strong woman loves. She loves not because she lacks, but because she is abundant. She does not give out of emptiness, but out of fullness. Love is often misinterpreted as submission. If a woman sacrifices for her family, people say she is dependent. If she chooses kindness in conflict, some think she is fragile. But in reality, choosing love in a world filled with bitterness requires far more strength than choosing hate. Anyone can respond with anger. It takes true power to respond with compassion. Love is not the easier path. It is the braver one. A woman who loves deeply also has resilience woven into her heart. She may get hurt. She may be misunderstood. She may even face betrayal. But her ability to continue loving despite pain shows her strength, not her weakness. Because love is not about being blind, it is about choosing to see the flaws, the struggles, the imperfections, and still believing in goodness. That requires courage. When love is rooted in strength, it becomes a source of healing. It builds, it uplifts, it transforms. Dependency drains both people, but love empowers both. Dependency cages, but love liberates. A strong woman does not love to fill a void. She loves to create light. And that light is not limited to romantic love. It flows into her friendships, her family, her work, her community. Love becomes the energy behind her compassion, the reason behind her sacrifices, and the fire behind her courage. Even in leadership, love is not weakness, it is wisdom. A leader who rules with fear may gain obedience, but a leader who leads with love gains loyalty. A woman who nurtures through love does not lose respect, she earns it. Her compassion is not a sign of dependency, but a sign of strength so deep that she can hold others while still holding herself. So when the world mistakes love for weakness, let them, because the truth is, it is far easier to close your heart than to keep it open. It is far easier to live in isolation than to give yourself to others. A strong woman knows this and still chooses love. For her, love is not dependency. It is the strongest expression of her inner power, her courage, and her unshakable compassion. Too often, when a woman chooses independence, society misunderstands her. They say she is rebelling, breaking tradition, or challenging authority. But independence is not rebellion. It is not about disrespecting others, nor is it about rejecting love, family, or responsibility. Independence is simply the right to live with dignity, to make choices that honor her values, and to walk a path that reflects her truth. From the time she is young, a woman is often told what she should do, how she should live, what she should accept, and where her limits are. If she dares to step beyond those lines, she is labeled as rebellious. But what is rebellion? It is the act of fighting against something just for the sake of opposition. Independence, on the other hand, is not about fighting against. It is about standing for. Standing for her dreams, her worth, her dignity, and her freedom. A bird was never created to remain in a cage, even if the cage is golden. It was made to spread its wings, to fly, to explore the skies. Does the bird's flight mean it hates the cage? No. It simply means its nature is freedom. In the same way, when a woman seeks independence, it does not mean she hates her family, her culture, or her traditions. It means she wishes to live as she was created, to breathe freely, to choose consciously, and to honor her own existence. Independence is not selfishness. It does not mean ignoring the needs of others. In fact, true independence often makes a woman more capable of giving. Because when she is free to be herself, when she has the dignity of making her own choices, she has more strength and confidence to support those around her. A dependent heart often feels trapped and resentful, but an independent heart gives with joy. Consider a tree again. Its roots are deep in the soil, connected to the earth, but it stands tall on its own. It does not lean on another tree for support, yet it provides shade, fruit, and shelter. Independence works the same way. A strong woman does not cut herself off from relationships or responsibilities. She simply learns to stand tall without being reduced to dependency. But here is the challenge: independence is often uncomfortable for those who benefit from dependence. When a woman begins to speak her mind, make her own financial decisions, pursue her own education, or walk her own career path, it challenges the expectations of others. Some may label her as defiant, stubborn, or rebellious. Yet what she is truly doing is reclaiming her dignity. She is saying, I am not here to be owned, controlled, or silenced. I am here to live fully with respect and with freedom. And this dignity is not only her right, it is her responsibility. Because when one woman claims her independence with grace and strength, she lights the way for others who are silently waiting for permission to do the same. Her independence becomes an act of courage, not just for herself, but for every woman who sees her and thinks, if she can, maybe I can too. So independence is not rebellion. Rebellion seeks to break apart, but independence seeks to build. It builds character, it builds self-respect, and it builds a life where a woman can give, serve, and lead without losing herself. It is the quiet yet powerful declaration that dignity is non-negotiable. When people think of strength, they often imagine noise, raised voices, firm fists, power that dominates, and authority that demands attention. But true strength is not found in loudness. Real strength is quiet, steady, and unshakable. It does not need to shout to prove itself, nor does it need aggression to establish respect. True strength is like a mountain. It stands tall, firm, and immovable even in silence. A woman's strength is most powerful when it is graceful. Grace does not mean weakness. It means composure in the face of storms. It is the ability to respond without reacting, to hold peace in situations that would normally create chaos. Anyone can shout when provoked, but it takes extraordinary inner power to remain calm, to maintain dignity, and to choose wisdom over rage. That is the strength that transforms not just a situation, but also the people within it. Think of a candle in a dark room. It does not scream to announce its presence. It simply shines, and in doing so, it removes darkness. This is how true strength works. A strong woman does not need to prove herself to the world with aggression. Her presence, her consistency, and her grace naturally illuminate the space she walks into. People feel her power, not because she demands it, but because she embodies it. Aggression often comes from insecurity, from the need to be seen, heard, or validated. But steadiness comes from a deep knowing of who you are and what you stand for. A strong woman does not shout about her worth, she lives it. She does not compete to be louder than others. She chooses to be deeper within herself. And in that steadiness, others begin to recognize her strength without her having to say a word. Even in nature, the most powerful forces are steady, not noisy. The sun does not roar every morning. It simply rises, and its light changes the entire world. The river does not scream as it flows, yet over time it shapes valleys and carves rocks. The earth itself does not speak, but its presence sustains life. In the same way, a woman's true strength is revealed not by how loudly she declares it, but by how steadily she lives it every day. Grace, too, is an underestimated form of power. Many mistake grace for passivity, but it is actually discipline in action. To be graceful in the face of criticism, to walk with composure when misunderstood, to treat others with dignity, even when they do not return it. That is strength of the highest order. It is easy to lose control, to answer insult with insult, anger with anger. But it takes a steady heart to rise above, to hold your peace, and to let your actions, not your anger, define you. True strength is not about conquering others. It is about conquering yourself. The woman who can steady her emotions, steady her mind, and steady her actions, no matter what the world throws at her, is the woman who holds real power. Her grace becomes her shield. Her steadiness becomes her fortress, and her quiet presence becomes her influence. So strength does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it simply walks into a room with calm assurance. Sometimes it is found in the gentle hand that comforts, the patient ear that listens, or the calm response that ends an argument. True strength is steady, quiet, and graceful. And it is precisely this kind of strength that changes the world without aggression, without noise, and without force.